What if protecting sharks had nothing to do with saving sharks, and everything to do with saving the fish you eat? In multiple places around the world, when sharks disappear, fisheries start to fail. And now scientists are seeing that pattern happen time and time again. This is Ocean Decoded, where we break down what's really happening in the ocean and why it matters to you. Sharks are not just predators. They are regulators of entire ecosystems. As apex predators, sharks influence which species survive, where animals feed, and how populations grow. This is called top-down control. They remove weak individuals, shape behavior, and prevent any one species from taking over the ecosystem. Think of sharks less as killers and more as like system managers. Here's an example. In Shark Bay in Australia, tiger sharks influence the behaviors of dugongs and sea turtles. Their presence changes where these animals feed. When sharks are present, grazing is spread out and seagrass meadows stay healthy. But when sharks are removed, dugongs overgraze and seagrasses collapse. Seagrass meadows are critical because they support juvenile fish, commercial species, and carbon storage, as well as biodiversity. So sharks are protecting habitat that fisheries rely on. When sharks disappear, you don't just lose sharks, you trigger chain reactions. Along the US Atlantic coast, large shark populations decline due to overfishing. Cownose rays actually increased dramatically, and rays consumed large numbers of scallops. In some areas, scallop numbers collapse their fisheries. That is a trophic cascade. You have shark loss, you have ray increase, and you have shellfish decline. That directly impacts fisheries. On coral reefs, sharks help control mid-level predators. Herbivorous fish keep algae in check. But when sharks decline, mid-level predators increase, herbivores decrease, and algae grows over corals. And when corals declines, you get fish habitat that disappears, and you also see the fisheries suffer because there's no habitat for those fish. Fisheries don't just depend on fish, they depend on systems that produce fish. Sharks help maintain those systems by controlling mid-level predators. Without sharks, predators like rays and groupers increase, they consume juvenile fish, and fish stocks struggle to recover. And sharks help maintain systems such as protecting nursery habitats. Healthy ecosystems like seagrass, coral reefs, and mangroves are essential to young fish, and sharks help keep those habitats intact, just like the example with the tiger sharks and seagrasses. Sharks help maintain those systems by stabilizing ecosystems. Sharks reduce extreme fluctuations in populations. Stable ecosystems are predictable. If sharks disappear, you get swings in different types of food webs where some species will increase, some species will decrease. The stabilization keeps populations in check, and fisheries depend on predictability. This isn't just happening on reefs or coastlines. It's happening in the open ocean as well. In global tuna fisheries, especially longline fisheries, sharks are one of the most common bycatch species. Species like blue sharks and oceanic whitetips have declined significantly. So what happens when these sharks are removed? Studies have shown that sharks influence the where tuna feed, compete with tuna for prey, and shape the structure of pelagic food webs. So when shark numbers drop, prey species distribution changes, tuna behavior shifts, and food webs become less stable, just like we talked about before with the big swings. And instability in pelagic food webs affects tuna availability, catch consistency, and long-term fishery productivity. So even in the open ocean, removal of sharks change the system that tuna fisheries depend on. Here's the contradiction. Fisheries are removing sharks. While depending on the systems sharks stabilize, global shark and ray populations have declined about 70% since 1970, driven by targeted fishing, bycatch, and weak fisheries management. This creates a dangerous loop, short-term catch gains at the cost of long-term ecosystem stability. The science is clear on one thing. Sharks are not always the only driver, but they are often the critical one. They influence food web structure, species interactions, and ecosystem resilience. When sharks decline, ecosystems become less stable. Fisheries become less reliable. Saving sharks is not just about conservation. It is about protecting the systems that feed us. No sharks means weaker ecosystems, and weaker ecosystems mean weaker fisheries. If you want to understand how the ocean system really works, hit that subscribe button, because the more we understand in the ocean, the better chance we have of saving it. I want to thank you for joining us on today's episode of Ocean Decoded. We really appreciate you coming on here. I'm your host, Andrew Lewin. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time, and happy conservation.